They say 50 is the new 40. Well, when it comes to the banks, 50 is still 50. So today we're going to look at how you can apply for a loan later in life, including how old is too old when you're getting a mortgage, and one specific tip that you need to know if you're applying for a home loan and you're over 45 years old. Let's dive right in. Yeah, so like you said, we're actually seeing a lot of first home buyers that are buying later in life. You might be 40 or 50, you might have traveled a bunch. You might not have just gotten around to it and want to buy a place.
It's been 84 years.
But there's lots of problems with that because we've seen some banks, as soon as you're over 40, want to know when you're going to retire. They don't want to give you a 30-year loan. So how old is too old when you're applying for a mortgage? So Nathan, the first question I want to ask is, can a 40 or even a 50-year-old person get a 30-year mortgage? Will the banks let you do that? And why wouldn't they? Jaden, it depends on the bank and it depends on their criteria. Each bank has different requirements. So some banks, once you hit 45 years old, they're saying, we're going to give you a 30-year loan term. You're going to be 75 by the time this ends. What's your strategy going to be? Because the Australian retirement age at the moment is 69 years old. So it means you're going to be retired and still have a loan left over. So it depends on the bank. There are some lenders that have a bit more relaxed criteria around this and will give a 30-year loan term to a 45-year-old, a 50-year-old, a 55-year-old, and right up to 60, provided there's enough evidence that you'll be able to pay out that debt once the time comes when you retire. Yeah, so Nathan, in that example that you use, some banks won't give you a 30-year loan term. So say, for example, you are 45 years old and you are expecting to retire when you're 69 years old. In that case, the bank will only give you a 24-year loan term. That means that your repayments can be much higher than if you're on that longer loan term. So definitely watch out for that. All right, so notice if I'm over 55 years old and I still want that 30-year loan term so the repayment's a bit manageable, what kind of questions is the bank going to ask? What are they going to need to see before I apply? Yeah, so remember, we can get a 30-year loan term. At that stage, the banks are going to be saying, well, we're going to give you a 30-year loan term. You're going to be 85 by the time this loan ends. We believe your retirement is probably going to be closer to 69, maybe 70. What's going to happen thereafter? So they ask for something called an exit strategy. Now, an exit strategy can be, for example, you're going to downsize the property. You're buying a 4-bedroom house. You're going to downsize it within 15 years and you're going to buy a smaller property outright. You might have heaps of money in superannuation that can be utilized, some of it towards paying out the debt, or there could be a raft of different options, like you've got a number of investment properties and you're going to sell down the portfolio and pay down the existing debt. The banks are really after a solid strategy as to why they're going to give you a 30-year term and then partway through the term, how you're going to pay out the remaining debt. Or you might need to just go into details on your situation. So a common one that we see is potentially through divorce. You might have had a bunch of assets together and you've had to give half of them away, which is why you've had to sell and start again and look for that 30-year loan term. It's important to go through these details with your mortgage broker or your bank to make sure they're across the details and can sort of justify why you're looking at doing what you're looking at doing. All right, so Nate, is there an age limit to getting a home loan or a mortgage? Is there a maximum age you can be? There is absolutely no age limit in terms of getting a loan. The banks do look at things at your affordability. So if you don't have a job or you're retired, well, then that does get a little bit more challenging to get across the line. And the other thing, as we talked about before, they're looking at your exit strategy. So if you're 70 years old wanting to get a 30-year loan term, they're probably going to be asking a lot more questions at that stage, and also looking at your position to see what sort of assets you have, how you can potentially pay down the loan, and what your income is. Because if you're a construction worker at 70 years old, they'll be saying that you probably don't have much longevity in that role there. Whereas if you're an office worker and you're planning on working until you're 75, it completely makes sense. It's on the computer. It doesn't require you to physically be lifting stuff. So again, it's case by case, but yes, there is no age limit and it just needs to depend on your situation. And if it makes sense, there'll be an option for you there. All right, Nathan, so I've heard horror stories of people getting their loan declined because of their age. Even people over 45, is it true you can get your loan declined because of your age? It's crazy. You definitely can get your home loan declined if you're over 45 years old. So say, for example, you're 50 years old, you apply for a bank for a 30-year term.
on their assessment, they complete your repayments on a 30-year term. They look at your income, being able to support those repayments on a 30-year term. And as we talked before, they'd look at your exit strategy. Now, if your exit strategy isn't rock solid, for example, you don't have much super, you don't have much prospect, you're buying a 2-bedroom unit of downgrading, or you don't have many other assets, they're gonna be saying, well, maybe not gonna give you a 30-year term, we might give you a 20-year term. If you're unable to service that debt, so your income can't afford the higher repayments because you're gonna be paying it off over a shorter period of time, the bank's then gonna decline your application. So something to be aware of, remembering not all banks are the same when it comes to looking at a 30-year term for a 55-year-old. So talk to your broker, make sure you pair yourself up with the right lender that's gonna be more flexible.
All right, Nados, my last question is, can I qualify for a mortgage if I'm retired? Will the bank still give me money? I got a pension, whatever.
You definitely can get a mortgage if you own an existing property outright. It's called a reverse mortgage, where the bank will give you a lump of money. There's no expectation of paying the debt back, and they'll capitalize the interest applicable on the loan until you either pass away or you pay out the property. So this is called a reverse mortgage. We do see this more in the upper age limits, your 70s, your 80s, where you might need a large sum of money, you don't have any income, so they'll give you up to 20% of your property value, no questions asked, don't need to pay it back, against the property that you already own outright. So yes, absolutely, you can get a loan if you're retired, but there are a few little things that you need to meet there.
Well, you better hurry up.
Yeah, how come?
So that's it for today, guys. Please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, let us know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.